Hey guys, all right, so brand new unit today. This is actually just a great opportunity to kind of start fresh. I really do enjoy starting something from scratch. It kind of alleviates some fear. So we're going to kind of use that solving proportions knowledge to look at how else could we apply those proportions. Yes, I know how to graph it. Yes, I know what that equation would look like, but those aren't the things that we use proportions for necessarily in everyday life. And this unit is all about how we can really apply those. So we're going to start with percent applications, things like discounts, markups, tax tip commission, things like that. The second piece is going to be looking at figures. So how can I use proportions with figures? Think about when you take a picture on Microsoft Paint, if you wanted to make it bigger or smaller, like how much bigger are you really making it? Or how much smaller are you really making it? If an architect builds a model of their building, how does that really help them build the actual, like those different scale factors? Sorry, I had someone come in. Okay, so the last piece of that will be a scale. I want to do a really big scale factor project. I'm really trying to think about what that would look like for you guys virtually, but just kind of stuff to look forward to for the unit. Lots of drawing when we get there. So I want to start with just the percent proportion. We're not even going to do real world scenarios today. We're going to keep it very basic. So you guys know, let me share my screen. So we have our basic percent proportion that we're going to start with. And this is one of those things that you're going to memorize. You may have seen this before. We have is over of percent. Is that a percent sign? Oh, weird. I drew that differently than I normally do. 100%. There we go. Now, the part of the whole, I only write is over of in those places because usually in these kind of no real world connotation problems, you're going to notice these words, and those are your best clues for where to plug them. So I want you to remember this. The part over the whole is over of is some percent out of the 100% total. The good news is when you're doing percent proportions is that 100% is set in stone. It does not move. It will stay there indefinitely, which means you only have 3 spots to have to fill in information. Okay, now I'm gonna flip this over and it's gonna look kind of overwhelming, but I have this amazing graphic organizer where it has all the different styles of these questions. Okay, here's what I mean by that. Let me go to just this first pie slice for you guys and zoom in here. Okay, so this first question, I'm going to kind of color code here. Let's see. My proportion, that 100% is an automatic placement. I need to fill in this hole. And last but not least, this one. Okay. Now, if I read this first problem, what percent of 15 is 12? When I try and figure out where I'm plugging these numbers in, the first thing I see is the word what. Honestly, that truly helps me realize that this is what I'm looking for. This is my missing piece. What percent is 15, of 15 is 12? That's the missing. I have my of, sorry, wrong place. I have my of 15, that's my total, is 12. See those word clues? They're really there every time for these really basic problems. Is over of percent 100. Okay. So once I have them in place, now I just use that divide and times technique that we used from before. It still works, regardless if that 100 is there or not, right? We're essentially just solving the proportion. You could still find a common multiplier if you want, if that's your go-to strategy. The point is, whatever you used before, you're going to use now again, okay? So I'm going to divide 12 by 15 times 100, and I get 80, 80%. Okay. X equals 80%. Now there is another one here in this section, that is just like this problem. And I'd like you to try that one. I'm going to kind of freeze it in the middle when we're done talking about it. So I'm going to highlight that one in purple. I'm going to highlight all the ones in purple that you guys are going to do for me. Okay. Kind of like I do one, you do one. Okay. I'm going to scoot this around and look at a slightly different style of problem. Go. There's really two different ways you can approach this one. I'm going to show you my way first, and then I'll show you the shortcut. I'm going to put in that 100 there. Go. All right, so now I'm just going to kind of look and see what I have here. So it says 20%, that's my percent I'm looking for. I see it says of 50, that's where 50 is going to go. And what is? We don't know the is. That's our missing piece. What is 20% of 50? Okay, what is that number? Okay, now here I see a cool common multiplier technique. Divide by 5. Divide by 5, and I get that x equals 10. 10 is 20% of 50. Okay. Now another way you can do this, and I'm gonna only show this once, and then I'm not gonna mention it. Some of you guys will use it. What you're really doing there is you're taking 20% and multiplying it as a decimal, right? That's our dividing piece, if you do that strategy, times 50. Number of is your time. You'd still get 10. Okay. Again, I'm not going to go over that in detail. You've either been using that or you didn't. Enough of you I've seen have tried it. So I left that on there instead of just whiting it out. Okay. Now again, you're going to do one of that exact same style. What is 35% of 70? The last style you can get, so notice how on this one, it was that percent was missing on top. This one, the is was missing on top. You may be able to figure out what this one will look like. Okay. I'm going to draw my proportion. And I plug in some spaces. All right, so it says 95 is 25% of what number? So my of is missing this time. 95 is 25% of whatever that is. Okay. Now remember too, I guess I forgot to mention in the very beginning, something that's very helpful to look for right away too is the percent, because there's only one place that can go. The plain numbers, you will still have to look for those word clues, but the second I see the word percent, I know exactly where that number is going. Now remember, if you're not going to use a common multiplier, when that x is in the denominator position, we need to rotate it over. So we're going to flip the left side, and we're going to flip the right side, and then I can use the divide and times technique, my personal favorite. Divide and times, and x equals 380. So let me zoom out here and show you a big picture. I want you to ignore what you see around here. There's actually little math problems hidden in here that you will see put in my digital notebook, because we'll have more time to do those in class. Feel free, obviously, to use them as extra examples. What I would like you guys to try to do before our meeting, is the 4 problems that you see with that little purple mark to the side, okay? Make sure you're looking at those examples. You do not need to color coordinate if that's something you don't need. And just be ready with either questions or concerns that you may have when we meet, okay? See you soon.